The morning bells of Valon sounded like pennies dropped into a wishing well, each note a ripple of hope across the seaside town. For years, the people had measured their seasons not by calendars or tides, but by the progress of Leah Revis's canvases in the wide display window of her studio. When she painted crimson fishing boats, the sardines would soon return. When she painted mauve cliffs, the heather was about to bloom. It was not prophecy, merely attentiveness. Leora noticed details others missed, the silver lining of a cloud or the faint tinge of green on a bud, and trapped them in oils before they fully arrived. Valen's children called her Mistress Rainbow. Fishermen toasted her with salt-spattered mugs. Tourists sought her autographs. Color clung to her the way sand clung to the shoreline. She wore frocks pieced together from fabric scraps of every hue, and her laughter felt like bright citrus in the air. So when the fever came, 7 relentless days of candlelit delirium, no one worried too greatly. A hardy woman, the butcher said, sturdy as the cliff. And indeed, the fever broke. The sheets were washed, and Leora rose, thinner but standing. Then she opened her eyes upon the lilac dawn and saw only gray. All shades collapsed into ash. The sky was wet cement. Her own hands looked carved from tarnished pewter. The world had not died, but its soul had slipped out of spectrum, and she alone seemed aware. She stared at her easels. Rows of pigments waited, cadmium, red, phthalo blue, viridian, bright bullets in their tubes ready to explode into wonder. She squeezed a line of lemon yellow onto the palette, and it emerged an indifferent slate. A physician from the city rode in, shone lights into her pupils, performed tests. Acquired achromatopsia, he declared. Permanent, I'm afraid. The town fell silent that evening. Even gulls seemed to hush, as though colorlessness could spread like contagion if they cawed too loudly. Leora locked the studio doors. She who had painted light itself now sat in darkness at noon. Weeks passed, friends brought her soups and lilies in awkward comfort. She thanked them kindly, but every bowl and bloom looked alike. One rainy day, a timid knock sounded. It was Ansel, a small boy who often sketched beside her window. He held his sketchbook lopsided. I already miss your canvases, he whispered. Could you maybe just draw me, even in charcoal? A request so simple, so human. Leora could not refuse. She seated Ansel, lit a lamp, and began. Graphite lines rose under her hand, the delicate slope of his cheek, the earnest tilt of his eyebrow. While she worked, something stirred at the edge of perception. Not color, not exactly light, but a hush of possibility. The pencil seemed to guide itself. She shaded the lips last, instinctively widening them into a grin larger than the boy currently wore. She added a missing tooth, new grown, and a faint curve of braces gone. When she showed Ansel the portrait, he giggled. That's not me right now. Perhaps it's you tomorrow, she joked, half embarrassed. 3 days later, his mother burst into the studio unannounced. Look, she beamed as Ansel flashed a metallic-free smile. His orthodontist, earlier than scheduled, had removed the braces, rewarding the boy for meticulous care. The resemblance between flesh and graphite was eerie. The same angle of joy, the same crinkle by the eyes. Leora brushed it off as coincidence, but a seed of unease sprouted. She tested the phenomenon with small, private trials. She sketched the baker's apprentice, imagining her laughing amid clouds of sugar. A week later, the girl was promoted, cheeks dusted white as she laughed exactly so. She painted the reclusive lighthouse keeper, envisioning him grinning beside a visiting granddaughter nobody had ever seen. 10 days later, granddaughter arrived unannounced, and the old man's grin matched Leora's painting like a stamp to sealing wax. Color was gone, but something else, some corridor of tomorrow had opened. Word traveled faster than gulls on wind. People queued outside the studio, not for portraits of their present selves, but of their future joys. Leora tried to limit appointments. 3 sitters a day, 1 canvas each. She feared that tampering with time might invite misfortune, like plucking threads from an intricate tapestry. Yet the townsfolk's longing proved irresistible. In a world stuffed with worry-failing crops, bitter feuds, persistent debts, who wouldn't crave a glimpse of an approaching smile? One evening, the blacksmith arrived, soot on his collar, shoulders tight as hammered steel. I hardly sleep, he admitted. Business is bad, my furnace cools too often. She seated him beneath the skylight. The smell of iron mingled with turpentine. As she painted, she sensed warmth bloom inside her skull. a quiet hum as though a chorus inhaled in unison. Her brush revealed him months ahead, cradling a delicately forged weather vane shaped like a swallow, his smile shy and proud. Later, the mayor commissioned new rooftop ornaments for the entire town, and the blacksmith shop roared again. A widow came, still wearing aubergine mourning shawls, though 3 years had passed. Leora painted her strolling the promenade, arm in arm with the violin teacher, both radiant in late-life love. The widow blushed, scandalized, yet folded the canvas beneath her shawl. 2 months on, music from the teacher's studio and the widow's laughter fused into a duet. Joy, it seemed, was contagious once illustrated, but there were complications. Not every future happiness bloomed freely. Some required choice, courage, sacrifice. A painting showed the grocer's son grinning atop a foreign mountain, but he feared travel. Another showed rival restaurateurs clinking glasses, but they preferred rivalry's heat to reconciliation's calm. Sometimes predicted smiles never manifested, leaving the canvases like cages holding birds that refused to sing. Disappointment gnawed at those people, and their mutters swirled like storm clouds. And then came Mayor Carry-On. He arrived with a retinue and a proposal printed on thick cream paper. Tourists already trickle through Veilon, he said, stroking his trimmed beard. Imagine if we offered not only seas and sunsets, but certified glimpses of personal euphoria. People would pay handsomely. Consultation fees, portrait sittings, lodging. We could build a gallery, a prediction parlor. Wealth for all. Leora listened, palms sweating. My gift isn't merchandise. Everything of value is merchandise, the mayor answered gently. Consider it community service for a fair recompense. She refused, polite at first, then firm. The mayor's eyes hardened like unripe fruit. He spread rumors of greed, claimed she withheld miracles for the elite, charged secret sums, manipulated townsfolk. Some believed, some doubted. The once adoring crowd became a mixture of reverence and resentment. Under this pressure, Leora's hand began to tremble while painting. White noise clogged the corridor through which visions traveled. One afternoon, she tried capturing the smile of a young fisherman, but the future would not reveal itself. The canvas dried blank. She laid down her brushes. I need silence, she told the town. No more portraits for a season. The queue dispersed in grumbles. Shutters near her studio slammed. She overheard curses. Selfish witch, toys with our hopes. At night, she dreamed of colors she could no longer see, ruby sunsets, bleeding into emerald seas, but awoke to grayscale guilt. On a fog-laden dawn, she wandered beyond the harbor into hills stitched with olive trees. There lived Master Oren, a potter gone blind at 40, yet producing bowls so perfectly balanced they sang when tapped. He invited her for tea, feeling for cups with practiced grace. You're the one who paints what will be, he said, pouring, and perhaps now you wonder if the gift is blessing or burden. Leora's voice cracked. I lost my colors to gain it. Now I'm losing myself as well. Oren nodded, milky eyes aimed inward. At her sight slipped from me. People pitied. But blindness tuned me to shapes under my fingertips, to vibrations in clay, to the echo inside a vessel. I stopped making vases for gardens and began making urns for memories. The world paid attention. Some tried to buy the secret, to bottle meaning. When I refused, they cursed me. I almost smashed my wheel. What saved you? Leora asked. A simple truth. A gift is not yours alone. It's a dialogue. Clay speaks, I answer. If I objectify the clay, conversation ends. Instead, I listen and the right people find me, not as customers, but collaborators. The potter placed a small bowl into her hands. Its rim felt warm despite cooling tea. Listen to your gift, not to the noise around it. Decide the terms of the conversation. Leora returned to town with the bowl cupped like a heartbeat. She reopened the studio on the first day of spring, penning a handwritten notice beside the door. I will paint only those who seek, not predictions of fortune, but guidance toward their own laughter. The price is a promise. When you find the smile I have shown, you must pass forward delight to another. Appointments limited, mayor's coin not accepted. The crowd thinned considerably. Novelty seekers drifted away to the pier carnival. Those who remained carried quiet desperation or blooming courage. Leora felt the corridor clear again, like wind finally sweeping a chimney. Teenage seamstress arrived, shoulders sagging. Her mother was bedridden. Every saved coin vanished into medicine. Leora painted her, beaming while holding a bolt of luxurious fabric under bright shop lights with a sign reading, Manager. The girl frowned. Impossible. I can't afford apprenticeship. Yet she thanked Leora and left. Weeks later, the seamstress organized a neighborhood mending circle, repairing torn clothes for donations. Word of her skill spread, a merchant sponsored her training, and within the year, she indeed ran a boutique, smiling precisely as foretold. Each fulfilled canvas returned to Leora's studio for 1 week, proof of joy, then passed along to inspire someone else. Pictures lined her walls like lanterns, grayscale yet luminescent. Still, Mayor Carrion simmered. Tourist revenue had dipped, he blamed her non-cooperation. During a council meeting, he proposed an ordinance classifying predictive arts as a taxable enterprise requiring municipal oversight. Laura spoke softly in protest but was outvoted. Inspection officers arrived next dawn demanding ledgers. She had none, only letters from recipients describing realized happiness. They confiscated several, citing evidence. Town gossip flared again. Old friends crossed streets to avoid her. That night, vandals shattered her front window. Wind whipped through, scattering charcoal sketches across the square like startled pigeons. Leora collapsed amid glass, sobbing soundless tears, colorless world. But the next morning, she swept shards, taped cardboard over the gap, and prepared paint. Something fierce ignited inside. She stretched the largest canvas she owned, taller than herself, width of the window frame. For 3 days, she worked without visitors. Brush racing, heart steady, she painted the town square she had watched grow and fracture, marble fountain at center, children's chalk drawings on cobblestones, string lights overhead. Every building appeared intact, each window glowing, and in that square stood the townsfolk. Not generic figures, but individuals. Fishermen, widow, potter, seamstress, blacksmith, even Mayor Carillon, every one of them smiling, faces lit by something off canvas. Fiora did not know what light they looked toward, only that it united them. When the painting dried, she titled it internally The Next Gathering and mounted it in her shattered window for all to see. People paused, drawn by curiosity. The portrait of future harmony unsettled them. Many avoided eye contact with their own depicted smiles. But talk spread, softer than before, laced with longing. 2 weeks later, clouds bruised the sky. Barometers fell, fishermen secured boats, vendors folded awnings. A storm arrived at dawn, lashing streets with rain like spilled ink. By noon, gutters overflowed. Leora stood inside, watching buckets fill. She had slept poorly, ears full of thunder. Just past midday, the rain thinned, then stopped as abruptly as if snuffed. Sunlight pierced the clouds, the town exhaled, and then a stripe of color, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, so vivid even monochrome eyes might sense its warmth. A rainbow arched above the square, and because of the moisture still in the air, a second arc followed, fainter yet present. Children were first to run outside, shrieking. Adults emerged, shielding eyes. Someone rang the church bell without permission. Another strung paper lanterns left from last year's festival. One by one, people drifted toward the fountain, magnetized by spectacle and by memory of Leora's painting. The fisherman laughed with the widow. The seamstress lent her umbrella to the mayor, whose velvet hat drooped comically. Musician unpacked accordion. Baker handed out raisin buns left unsold due to storm. Leora watched from her doorway, trembling. The square filled exactly as on canvas, the same positions, the same tilts of jaw, the same ripples of delight. She stepped forward, hesitant. Mayor Carrion saw her. Rainwater dripped from his cuffs. He approached, hat in hand. "I have behaved poorly," he admitted, voice carrying enough for nearby ears. "I mistook your gift for a coin purse, and my greed bruised this town. Will you forgive me?" She studied his face, creased with humility rather than calculation. In the painting, her brush had placed a forgiving curl at the corner of his mouth. She nodded. "If you will help mend what was broken." "Gladly," he said. Someone shouted, "Mistress Rainbow!" And the crowd parted. Children tugged her into the square. Although the rainbow overhead was invisible to her eyes, its presence tingled on her skin, a warmth like coals under snow. For a moment, she felt color again, not by sight but by memory, by the crowd's gasps, by the unison of gratitude. Urin the potter arrived, led by his apprentice, fingertips brushing the air. "Describe it," he asked. Leora laughed. "I cannot see it either, but I can feel its smile." The potter grinned. "Good enough." The town erupted into impromptu festival. Musicians played, couples danced, old quarrels dissolved like sugar in tea. As dusk leaned in, lanterns replaced sunlight, and the party glowed long after the rainbow faded. Leora slipped back to the studio. She removed the cardboard from the window. Glaziers would come later. For now, she wanted breeze. She gazed at her grand canvas of unity and quietly signed her name. A flourish she had left absent until the vision felt safely born. Summer rolled on, and Veillon found a calmer rhythm. The mayor rescinded the ordinance, issued public apology, and formed a committee to foster arts without exploitation. Tourists came, as they always would, but now they bought local crafts, listened to sea legends, donated to harbor cleanup. Occasionally, they inquired about prophetic portraits, but the townsfolk redirected them gently. "She paints futures only for those who live among us, who will nurture what they glimpse." Leora returned to personal work, exploring grayscale depths she once dismissed as dull. She discovered infinite temperatures within black and white, cool silvers, warm charcoals, luminescent pearls. Shadows no longer scared her, they carried stories. She still painted future smiles, but sparingly. Each recipient signed an oath of kindness. Completed canvases traveled like migratory birds, never sold, always gifted. Joy became currency. Sometimes in dreams, colors visited her. Viridian waves, cinnabar roofs, ultramarine night. She did not awaken sorrowful. The dreams were postcards reminding her where she'd come from. She realized that vision was only one doorway into the world's palette. Touch, taste, sound, memory, all added hues, unseen yet sensed. One windy evening, Ansel, the boy whose braces had begun it all, knocked again, now lanky and sun-freckled. "I want to be a painter like you," he said. Leora handed him a fresh sketchbook. "Paint what you see now. Paint what you wish to see. Paint what you cannot see, but feel. And if someday something strange blesses or challenges you, remember, listen to the gift." He grinned without braces, without fear. Years later, travelers passing through Veillon sometimes noticed an odd tradition. Whenever a stranger laughed heartily in the square, someone would paint a quick sketch of the moment and hang it on a communal wall. Over time, the wall formed a gallery of smiles foretold and realized. Most were grayscale. A few included streaks of tentative color added by apprentices who still possessed normal sight. No plaque explained the practice, but observers felt lighter just standing there. On quiet nights, Leora would walk past that gallery, fingertips brushing frames like reading braille of happiness. She could no longer recall the exact shades of saffron or turquoise, yet she no longer mourned them. Each smile she had, mid-whiffed, sparkled brighter than any pigment wheel. And sometimes, when moonlight slanted over rooftops and the sea whispered secrets, she could swear she glimpsed, at the corner of vision, a flicker of color, quick as a wink, real as breath. She never tried to chase it. She just smiled, wider than before, and turned to the next blank canvas where tomorrow waited, quietly, to be born.